Welcome back, guys, to the Grateful Living podcast. Today, I'm thankful to have Justin Dunn, a pitcher for the Seattle Mariners, with me today. Justin, thanks for being on.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
So, take it back for us. Talk about where you grew up, what your family situation was like, and what you were like as a kid.
Yeah, so grew up, born in Queens, moved out to Long Island, New York when I was in second grade when my little brother was born. I was 7 at the time. Mom and dad both working class. Dad was the director of budget and grants at a hospital for a little while. Mom was a big recruiter, or not a big recruiter, was a recruiter for a nursing home. And wasn't really well off or anything. Got what I needed, got what I want. Some things I wanted, but the big thing I always wanted was baseball. So a lot of our resources and time went into playing and weekend tournaments and practice and bats and balls and gloves and all the all the works. As a kid, I was very shy away from the field, very shy to get to know people. But once I got to know you, or once I was on the field, my true personality would come out. And I'm a big jokester. Anybody who knows me, I like to joke, I like to laugh, I like to have a lot of fun. I'm a big little kid in a big kid body. I still mess around, and my parents ask me if I ever grow up to this day. Um, so I've been like that since I was 7 or 8. But the only thing I've really had with me since then was just the love for the game. I eat, sleep, and breathe it. Um, I really don't know anything else other than baseball.
uh, Talk to me about, were you playing multiple sports, or was it just baseball, or what were you like in terms of your
I
sports as a
played,
kid?
yeah, I played, but I think my parents put me in other sports just to see if I would gravitate towards something else. But it would be, I would go play basketball, and then my baseball glove would be on the floor when I got home, and I would just pick that up and just start throwing the ball to myself. Or like,
Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, my grandma lived with us for a little bit, and we would play sock baseball in our living room. Like while she used to babysit me, I used to ball up a little sock and like make her pitch it to me and like hit it with a bat and pitch to her. And I was just playing baseball all the time. So no matter what sport I played, it always ended up coming back to baseball. It was just kind of a way to get me to do other things as a kid. The only time I really played three sports was in high school. I went to boarding school for 4 years, and they made us play three sports there.
Awesome. Talk to us about, you went to the gunnery school.
Yes.
Talk to us about that experience, and what that taught you. I think, as you said, it was a boarding school, so I think you might have had to not be independent, but like grow
Grow up.
up a little
I had to grow up
faster.
quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I went to it's actually called the Frederick Gun School now.
Okay.
But when I was there, it was called the Gunnery School. Parents dropped me off at 13 years old. I was 4'5", like 100 pounds soaking wet. Petrified, man. Let me tell you, petrified. It was funny. The day my parents brought the idea to me, I was kind of just a yes kid. So I was just like, yeah, 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 yeah. They told me I was going to go play baseball somewhere. So I was like, cool. And then we started going and looking at these schools, and I'm like, there's no way they're serious about this. There's no way they're going to send me away. And it just seemed like every week I was getting deeper into the process. I took the SAT of boarding school, and then I was going on official visits, and then I was approved for financial aid, and then we were going to buy the school uniform, and then I was buying a trunk to put my clothes in, and then I'm in the car and I'm on campus, and I'm like, what the heck just happened? Um, for like the first 3 days, I tried to flip it in my head of I'm at a sleepover at my friend's house, and I'm gonna end up going to school with them, but I don't know anyone to like be friends with yet.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, I was super shy. So I kind of got the rap very quickly of the baseball kid because I would just sit in my room. And a couple of weeks earlier, my dad had showed me how to tighten my gloves so that I could do them myself. And I would just sit in my room and just tighten and untighten my glove, tighten and untighten. And that's how I would pass the time. And my friends would just hear balls popping in my glove, or me watching baseball or looking at baseball videos. And it was funny. My advisor, who was my baseball coach, Mr. Trundy, he was the big reason why I ended up going to the school. Um, he had found out that I was struggling a little bit. I called home to my parents. And I was like, it's time for me to go. Like, I can't do this. I can't. Mind you, it's 4 days in. Um, and I knew if I called my mom, she would try to calm me down. So I called my dad because I could get him riled up. And if my voice got fired up, he may come and get me. But he called my coach, and my coach ended up sending, his name was Justin Charles. And he was the captain of the football team. Big dude, like 6'5", 300-pound lineman. And he comes in the dorm, and I'm sitting in the common room watching TV, and he's like, "Where's Justin Dunn?" And I'm like, "I haven't been here 4 days. Like, I didn't do anything to warrant you to come look for me, man." And we ended up having a long talk, and kind of calmed me down a little bit, and ended up going on a school retreat and making a lot of friends. About a weekend, and my experience completely changed. Made a bunch of friends. I really became in love with the school. Then baseball season came, and obviously had fun with that. And then I started growing and maturing and figuring out who I was as a person. And it was an experience I would do again in a heartbeat. We sent my little brother to boarding school for a year. He didn't like it as much as I did. He went a little bit further away than me. So I think that had something to do with it. But again, I would encourage it to everybody. I encourage it to like 5 or 6 other kids that I've met along the way.
Yeah, yeah. You know, as you like went through your high school career, at some point you started getting recruited by colleges. Can you talk about that process of choosing BC and uh, why were there any other schools that were close, or was BC always number one?
So actually, when I was going through the recruiting process, I did not want to go to college. Um, at 8 years old, I told my mom I was going to play in the big leagues. Um, at like 10, I told her I was going to go in the first round. And then at like 11 or 12, when I found out how the draft process worked, I said, I'm not going to college, Mom. I don't want to go to college. And they were always just like, okay, okay, okay. So going through it, no matter who we were talking to, my whole goal was I'm going in the draft. I'm going in the draft. I'm going to play professional baseball out of high school. I don't want to go to college. My dream school at the time was the University of Texas. Those Texas, Vanderbilt, and LSU were my top threes. I was nowhere near ready to play at any one of those schools, but like that's just where at the time they were in the College World Series every year, winning national championships. That's just where I wanted to be. And my high school coach coached in the Cape Cod Baseball League up in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
So he was very connected with, I remember we would be down on our trip to Florida every year, and Tim Corbin would call him, and then Augie Garrido would call him. And it's all the schools I want to go to are calling this man on the phone. And I'm listening to these conversations on Bluetooth about what type of players. And I'm always like, Coach, like, tell him about me. And he's just like, no, never, 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 never. And the process kind of started my junior year. I committed my junior year. I was a late bloomer. And ended up going to a camp with my summer team, Baseball U. And Scott Friedholm was at the camp. And there were a couple other schools there, but Scott Friedholm was the pitching coach at BC at the time. And he said, hey, why don't you come up, take a visit? And so my family came up. My family and I went up, and we took a visit, watched practice, and the campus was beautiful, as you know.
Yeah.
And I kind of fell in love right away. Then I met Coach Gambino, and he made me feel right at home and showed the interest that made me feel wanted. My entire life, I was always the kid that was never good enough, never big enough, never strong enough. I never felt wanted. And he gave me the vibe of, I want you to come play here. I want you to come play for me. Come play for me. Come play for me. But also at the same time told me I wasn't good enough, which kind of threw me off. So if you know Coach Gambino, like, he tries to play like games with you sometimes, play reverse psychology. And that like pissed me off. And he knew that would light a fire under me. And I was like, you know what? F it. I'm going there and I'm going to show him.
Yeah.
So they ended up offering me after a camp, and I didn't even wait to talk to any other schools or anything. Jumped right on it. Great campus, great academics, ACC baseball, and I had a chance to play right away. And my high school coach always told me there's a difference between interest and interest. And Coach Gambino showed me that interest that I wanted, and I knew no matter what, he had my best interest at heart, and he was going to take care of me. So I felt comfortable going there. My family felt comfortable going there, and we just kind of jumped right on it.
As you look back on that process, especially as a professional baseball player now, what do you think for kids that are, juniors and seniors in college? What do you think is important for them? Because they barely know the world, right? At
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
16, 17, 18. What do you think they should be thinking about when they commit to a college?
I think the biggest thing is you gotta make sure that the school has a major that you want first and foremost, because God forbid you get hurt or something happens and you can't play for a year or 2 years. You don't want to be. And I'm going through it with my brother right now. Actually, he's a basketball player, and we're starting to talk about what he wants to do. But God forbid something happens and you're stuck on this campus and you can't play. You can't work out. Lose you?
I think we lost you for a second there.
Does you?
Um,
I was. The big thing is you need to make sure the school has your major.
gotcha.
Because if the school doesn't have your major and God forbid something happens and they're traveling without you and you're hurt or you're ineligible or something like that and you don't enjoy the school, you don't have something that you're actually immersed in outside of the sport, it's going to be no fun for you. You're going to be miserable and you're going to want to leave.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest thing for me was BC was close to home. It had at the time I didn't know what major I wanted. I wanted to go play. I just kind of committed because I like Coach Gambino. I didn't know what I wanted to do. But then I ended up falling in love with sociology, so I was really happy about that. But just knowing that I love the campus, I was close to home. If I had a bad weekend, I could get home and see my family, or my family can come see me and kind of get over some things. And I was used to being on my own already from 13, so that part didn't really bother me. But for kids, I think the biggest thing is just finding a campus, and you'll know, and I know you know about it. Once you step foot
Yeah.
on a campus, you know, okay, this is the place for me. This is where I feel comfortable. And that's the biggest thing, is just feeling comfortable, having something outside of the sport or outside of the major for kids who aren't playing sports that draws you to that campus.
Talk to me about what do you think college allowed you to develop in, right? Because you were drafted by the Dodgers out of high school. Granted,
Mhm.
37th round, but what do you think that like what did you add some more pitches? Did you add speed? Was like what did college allow you to develop as a baseball player?
Yeah, so I think it goes back to that day when the Dodgers called me. When the Dodgers called me, I was 5'10", like 145 pounds, right? So still growing at this point. I hit my last growth spurt end of my freshman summer in college. Um, and they called me, and I think it was in the 8th round first, and they were like, "We want to take you. Will you go?" And I told my dad, I said, "Tell him let's go, let's go, let's go." And my dad wrote the text up and he said, "Let's go." But before he hit send, he looked at me and said, "Do you understand? If I hit send, there is no going back on this. When they take you, you are going. Are you ready to go to work? You have to understand you are going into a profession with grown men. You are going to be going to work with 22 to 24-year-old men day in and day out. Mommy and daddy aren't going to be there to help you. You got to pay your own bills. You got to shop for yourself. You got to cook for yourself. You got to do your own laundry. You got to get a car. You got to be able to drive. You got to do all this stuff. Are you ready to do that and handle baseball on top of that?" And I kind of like sunk in my seat. I was like, damn. And selfishly, I was like, yeah, 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 let's go.
Yeah.
And I kind of sat back and looked at my mom, and she was just shaking her head. And I was like, all right, mom, no, I'm not ready.
Yeah.
And so I decided, I said, let's go to school. Let's go to school. So got to school, kind of had the same attitude, a little cocky, thought I was better than I was, and got humbled very quickly. And where things turned for me in college was that freshman summer. Academically, I struggled. Baseball wise, I struggled. And I had to stay for summer school. Coach Gambino sat me down and said, listen, this summer is about you learning how to work. You have to learn the process of work and fall in love with the process of work and getting better and understanding how those two go hand in hand. And he wasn't even talking about baseball wise. he was talking academically. He said, when you learn how to work academically, the baseball life will take care of itself. And I ended up getting into tutoring and then getting into getting better grades in school. And then I started working out harder in college, and then my velocity ticked up. And then I had a really big turning point where I went down and played in the Cape Cod League, and I was playing in a men's league team, the Lexington Blue Sox. And we went down and played the Katua Kettleers, and I pitched, and they offered me a contract right there on the spot to go pitch as a freshman. And I had already committed to go play in the Cal Ripken League. So I was sitting there, I was on the phone with Coach Gambino and my high school coach, and we were talking, and I said, I don't want to go just play in this league. The thing with the Cape Cod League is you can make your money there, you can get drafted there based off one good summer, right? I said, I don't want to go play there until I'm ready to go dominate that league. And when I called Coach, he started clapping on the phone, and he said, you're finally understanding the mental place that you have to get to understand work. And from that day forward, my life kind of changed. And then Coach Foster comes in my sophomore year, and we learn how to analyze swings and hitting, learn how to analyze swings and sequencing. And my relationship with Mike King and Nick Shortino got closer, and we started doing our own work. And now my routine started to get put together, and having a bunch of guys that whole team, 15 and 16, we pushed each other day in and day out. And I think I give those guys a lot of credit for, one, pushing all of us and keeping all the guys level-headed that needed to be level-headed.
Yeah.
And there were times where I stepped out of line, and they would check me very quickly. And I think that went a very long way with me, and understood never too high, never too low, and try to be the same guy. And it was another lesson my high school coach taught me: respect the game, respect your teammates, and just focus on getting better every single day. And when I kind of made that my lifestyle is when baseball kind of took off for me.
Yeah. You also, correct me if I'm wrong, made a change from reliever to starting pitcher junior year.
Yes.
Talk about that
Junior.
process.
So we were. I love to win, but I hate to lose more than I love to win. So, and Kalia will tell you that if you ever talk to her again, she'll tell you I hate to lose in anything. So my sophomore year, I was starting, and I'd have 3-4 good innings and then get hit. I didn't have a third pitch to turn the lineup over, or have the mental fortitude to turn the lineup over the second or third time through. So Coach Gambino came to me and said, hey, look, we're losing our games 7, 8, 9. Here's my idea. Let me know what you think. You're built up to go 6 innings. We can pitch you 4 innings or 3 innings, 7, 8, 9 on Friday, give you off on Saturday, piece the whole bullpen off on Saturday, and then you can give me 1 to 2 innings again on Sunday, and we'll win some games. And I think that can get us to Omaha. And I was like, Coach, if that's what's going to get us to Omaha and turn this program around, let's go. Boom. So I did it, had some success, started to get my name on the map a little bit, and started to fall in love with closing. I kind of took on the persona of being a closer. And it was a lot of fun just knowing when I touched the ball, the game was over. I wanted teams to know when they saw me run out of the bullpen, pack your bags, get on the bus, you're going home. Like, it's over, game over.
Yeah.
And we started winning some games, and we were this close to going to the postseason. And I blew a save, actually, ironically, in Virginia Tech. And that feeling never left like me. And I wouldn't apologize to every single senior and said, I'm sorry, I let you guys down. And came back my junior year, and I said, Coach, I don't want to ever feel that again. I'm up every single night. I'm going 1 inning a night. It's time for me to be a true closer. So that year in the Cape, instead of sending me to start for my draft status and all that stuff, I said, let me go, and I want to learn how to close, and I'm up every single night. 5 to 6 nights a week, I'm up. And I started pitching back to back to back to back to back. And I was like, my velocity's staying, my arm's in good shape. I can do this. I'm ready to go. And I'm doing it against some of the best talent in the country. So I came into school, and I was like, Coach, let's rock. Every night I'm up. You need me. If you want to give me a rest on midweek. But Friday, Saturday, Sunday, two innings, 1 inning, it doesn't matter. I'm up. We're going to win. We're going to Omaha this year. And we did that. We came out, I think we won like 15 straight, man. Like 15 or 16 straight. We were one of the top teams in the country to start of the year. And I think I was like second or third in saves. And we were playing some really good baseball. And we got to conference play. We swept NC State to start the year. I got 2 saves that weekend, and then came home. And we ended up losing a couple games, or we went away again and lost a couple games. And I hadn't pitched for a week straight or 10 days straight. And there was a midweek against Harvard. And I remember I was down that day, and Pete Frates was there. So me, King, and Scores had off that day. And we were just kind of outside messing around with Pete. And Foster came over to me and was like, yo, go put your cleats on. You're getting up tonight. I was like, oh, all right. And like, say goodbye to Pete, say goodbye to them, whatever. So I got up, and he came down to me in the bullpen and said, listen, today you have no breaking ball, you have no slider, and you have no curveball. You have to get through this save, fastball changeup only. And I said, okay. And I ended up doing it, and my changeup was like kind of really good that day, like the best it had been, honestly, of my career. And the next day I get called in coach's office, and he was like, hey, so we want you to start. Like, we've been losing games, and need to start winning series. If we're going to do this, we have to win every series for the next 6 weeks. And we think with you and Michael going back to back, we can win every series. And we had Jake Stevens, who was up for Golden Spikes at the time. So we had a chance to sweep every series if I was able to start. So I was like, if that's what it's going to take to win, again, like if you think that's what's going to get us to Omaha, man,
Yeah,
I'm on board. Let's do it. And I remember my first start of the year was against UVA. And I went up to Mike King the night before, and I was like, bro, I haven't started in years. Like, I don't even know what to do.
yeah,
And he walked me through, literally, like, sat with me in the locker room and was like, okay, go roll out. Okay, go heat up, do all this. Now go outside, now stretch, now throw this much. Now do this in the bullpen, and then go out. And ended up having a good game, and then never really looked back. I think I only lost 2 games, and one was to Notre Dame, and then that super regional game.
yeah,
Yeah, I had a lot of fun.
yeah. No, that's what's just for the amateur fan. What's like the in terms of I guess preparation and then recovery. What's the difference between starting versus being a reliever?
Yeah, so starting guys are kind of like prima donnas in a way. I can say that. We get a lot of massages and a lot of running, a lot of working out. But it's because we pitch once every 6 days. So when we get that ball in every 6 days or 5 days, we want to make sure that our bodies are primed and ready to go. So we put a lot of pride into our work and making sure that we're good and being able to go as long as we can in the game for our guys. In the bullpen, you are maintaining to be ready every single day. You may not throw as much, you may not lift as much, you may run more sprints than long distance, but you're just trying to do everything you can to be up and be ready to go every single night. Is
Yeah.
the biggest way to put it.
So BC was, I think, 12-40 the year before you got there, and then the year your junior year, the year that your last season, they were 35-22. You went to the ACC championship game. I mean, can you talk about what was the key to that transformation over those three seasons? Because that is as tough. I mean, in college sports, that's as tough a task to do is bring a program not doing well and have them. I think that might have been the best season BC had since like 2005 or something like that.
Yeah. I think a lot of that goes back to Coach Gambino, man. And the guys that committed under him when we had that 12-40 season and believed in what he was doing, from Chris Shaw to Joe Cronin to Luke Fernandez to Steven Sauter to Jeff Burke to Andrew Chan to all those guys that committed and stayed when the coaching staff kind of changed out. And with our grade, I think Coach knew that our junior year and the senior year of Joe and all those guys, Luke, was going to be the year that we did it. And from my freshman year, every single time there was a learning opportunity, he would call someone from that grade over, 1 or 2 people, and teach and say, this right here is, we're doing this so that in your junior year or your senior year, when we're going to Omaha or we're about to go to Omaha, we have this taken care of. So you could see the change in the practices we were having from our captain's practice to start the year to how much time we spent together off the field. I think that was the biggest thing, is we were a family through and through. You looked up in the dining hall, there was 5 or 6 of us together, not just 1 or 2. We were rolling deep pretty much everywhere we went. We did everything together, and we loved being around each other. And then that year in 16, we did a really good job of buying in to having one goal. We had one goal, and our grade and Joe and the seniors, we kind of came together and we were like, listen, these younger guys, they just need to see the word Omaha. That's it. That's where we want to go. This season is irrelevant. No matter what happens, if we don't get to Omaha, we failed. That's the way we need to look at the season, right? So we started putting up pictures of the word Omaha in the locker room, and then we put up. I remember I went and printed out a map quest from Commander Shea Field to TD Ameritrade in Omaha, Nebraska, and said this many miles to Omaha, Nebraska.
Yeah.
And that's all we looked at. If each day was, we were just trying to get 1 mile closer, 1 mile closer, 1 mile closer. And we just believed that we could do it. And we didn't have the most talented team. I mean, you look and you go back and watch some of those games and look at who we played against and who we beat. We just outworked teams. We played good fundamental baseball. We knew what our team identity was, and we didn't try to go hit more home runs than Louisville. We knew Louisville was going to hit more home runs than us. But we knew if we got first and second and we hit a ground ball to second base and had second and third with 1 out, we had 2 shots to get 2 runs in, and we were going to get 1 or 2 runs in every single time.
Yeah.
And we knew that we could pitch and we could play defense. And we relied on that. And then when we won, we had fun. We had fun together, and we enjoyed it. And we knew that once the fun was over that weekend, it was back to work, and we hit the ground running, and never too high, never too low. And we just kept the goal of not getting swept. It didn't matter if we lost 2 games or won 2 games. We just couldn't get swept. We had to take 1 from every single person.
Yeah. You mentioned him earlier, but Pete Frates and what he's done, for the ALS community is quite incredible. I think at that time he had, an operations role with the team or something like that.
Yeah, he was our Dobo.
Yeah. And he's a former Eagle pitcher himself. I guess, you spent 3 years with him. What do you, for people that weren't able to interact with him or didn't know him like you did, what do you remember and what do you take from your time with him?
I think first and foremost, the 2 words that always come to mind when I hear his name and think about him is hero and inspiration. A hero in the sense of he basically got a death sentence and flipped it to, I'm going to try to make this better for every single person that gets this disease after me. I don't care that I may not live as long as I want to. There's going to be a kid down the line. I don't care if it's 1 year to 10 years to 100 to 1,000 years after me. One day there's going to be a cure because I'm going to raise awareness to this disease. And just to see the progress that's been made, and it's still not done yet, but to see the progress that the Frates family, the Gleason family, and the entire ALS community has gotten with Pete and all those other guys who kind of catalyst the movement of awareness around ALS is heroic, first and foremost. And then just the inspiration to understand of he's dealing with everything he's dealing with, but he was able to bring energy and joy and passion to the room every time he walked in or was in the room. Your day was just brightened. You were so excited to see him. And I remember it would just be fun to kind of mess with him like he was still part of the team. Talks about stories of like, hey, this happened this weekend, like so-and-so did this, and like you'd see his eyes light up, and he just loved to be around the guys, and we loved having him around, and the messages he'd send you. And I remember the message he would send me, or the message he sent me before the Miami game, of just how proud he was of us, and that when we won if and when we won, we were going to see him in Omaha. And that's such a big deal to get him to travel, to be able to get him to feel good enough to go travel. And we knew that if we could get to that place, he was going to be with us for every single step of that journey. So that series meant so much, and for him to uplift you when you were down, and it kind of just teaches me that no matter what, through the good and the bad. In 2017, I had an atrocious year in my book, and the entire time I was ready to quit, but I remembered that Pete was Pete can't quit. You know, Pete, there's nothing Pete can quit. Why am I going to run from this? I can face it head on and figure out how to get better, or I can turn and be a coward. And when you look at your hero and he's not running from his challenges, he's facing them head on. It kind of reminded me to just get back in the saddle and go to work.
Yeah, you see him and you're like, I should fight too. Um,
Yeah, nothing else matters.
yeah, I guess so. To switch it up a little bit now, junior year, you're having a terrific season. I don't know what the process is like. I mean, at some point, I guess, are you getting indications that, you know, professional baseball is a real possibility? I mean, I don't know how that even, like, are agents coming to you, or what was the process of you foregoing your senior season and entering the draft?
So baseball's a little different. You don't have to enter.
Oh,
You're
okay.
always eligible. So you're
Yeah.
eligible after a senior in high school, when you're 21, or after your junior year, and after your senior year. So you can get drafted 4 times.
Okay.
Um, so the process started when I was on the Cape. I had a really good Cape season closing, and some buzz started to creep up around my name. Um, and then got to school, and as a closer, I wasn't going to go as high as I did. Um, but because I was a starting pitcher, the game kind of changed a little bit, and people wanted to see if I could start. People don't really draft closers, and the big thing was, could I go deep in a game? Could my velocity hold? And could my stuff stay the same? And after the UVA game, when I showed that, it kind of just got crazy with meetings and phone calls. And I had an advisor at the time, and we were talking, and then starting to figure out how the draft process really worked. Of, if this guy goes here, you could go here. And the mock draft started coming out, and then you have to take personality test and all this other crazy stuff that goes into it. But the entire time I was more focused, honestly, on going to Omaha. I let my advisor and my family handle all that. I just wanted to play. Coach Gambino did a really good job of blocking out all the noise from me to Mike King to Nick Shortino, all of that. We had no idea of what was going on behind the scenes. Everybody that got drafted that year. And we just wanted to play and get to Omaha. We knew that if we played as long as we could, if I played as long as I could, I was helping Nick Shortino. If Mike King played as long as he could, he was helping Johnny Adams. So we were just trying to keep playing, to keep helping everybody else, and keep winning ball games. That's really all that mattered. So the draft night was June 8th of 16. We were playing Miami the next day, and we were at Duffy Sports Bar, and it was a crazy night. I thought I was going to get drafted to the Mariners with the 11th overall pick. But my buddy Kyle Lewis, they kind of told me if Kyle was still there, they were going to take Kyle. And when I saw he was still there, so my sights kind of shifted a little bit. And then I didn't even know if I was going to go in the first round. I thought there was a chance I went to the Red Sox. And then I thought there was a chance that I went to the Yankees, two teams that I had talked to a good amount. And when they both passed, I thought the next time I was going to go was maybe the Dodgers. I was going to go back to the Dodgers the next bit, I thought, or the Blue Jays. Those were another two teams. And then the Mets ended up taking me, and was extremely ecstatic to be going home, to be going to such a great pitching organization. And again, yeah, just be home and play in a uniform that I grew up being able to watch close to home.
Talk about that process of, like, you know, you're an amateur college player, like, using, like, your card to at the dining hall, and then suddenly you're a New York Met. You have all these, you know,
Yeah.
a ton of money coming your way. And I mean, just like, how was navigating all the variables? I mean, I'm sure so many people started, like, randomly DMing you and
Oh yeah,
opportunities for commercials and all that. I mean, how was trying to navigate all that?
yeah. So actually, it all started literally the day after I got drafted. So I'm supposed to pitch the next day, and I wake up and Xana's like, "Hey, you have an interview with ESPN. Then you have an interview with ESPN about Pete. Then you have to get to the field early and do another interview about Pete,
Wow.
and then you have to go pitch." And then on top of that, Zach Collins had gotten drafted the same year, and he was the 10th overall pick. So our regional was, I think, the only regional with two first rounders in it,
Wow.
like playing against each other. So it
Yeah.
was super hyped up, and media was all over the place. So after that, after I'd signed, it kind of died down, and I could go low key for a little bit. So I was home, just being a regular person. Obviously, people in my town knew what happened, and it was cool to take some pictures with people and see some people. Um, but going into pro ball and now having to sign autographs for people like every day, it was kind of overwhelming. And then I'll never forget the day I first got my check and realizing like, oh, I'm employed now. I was in a convenience store in Staten Island, across from the Staten Island Yankee Field. I was like, whoa, this is cool. And but the craziness of getting the DMs and stuff that still happens now. Um, Financially, I have a great financial advisor who helps me out and keeps my head on straight. But it's fun to be able to kind of take care of my family and give them everything they were able to give me and then some.
Yeah. So I guess talk to us about the, you spent the first several seasons in the minor leagues in the Met system. What was that transition like from college to professional? I mean, at that point, what are the pitching coaches trying to do with you? Is it more about maintaining speed? Is it about techniques? What were they trying to
Um,
accomplish with you?
I think the biggest thing was just fine tuning what I had, being efficient with what I had, learning a change up. The first year wasn't really much tweaking, and the second year I struggled with command a little bit. So that was the main goal of that year. Frick, sorry.
You're,
Was fine tuning command, and honing that in, and then the next year was learning how to sequence hitters and minimize mistakes. And eventually, it's all molding you to just be a major league pitcher. It's the steps along the way, and you determine how fast or slow the steps go with how you progress. But there's no real written formula for one person. There's guidelines kind of along the way, but each person's journey is a little different.
talk about what you learned from, I guess your teammates and just living the minor league baseball lifestyle, right? There's a lot of these guys with a lot of big league dreams, and a lot of them aren't. They might be paid like $6,000 a seat. I mean, it's not a lot of money,
Mm-hmm.
and yet they're going after it pretty hard. I mean, what was all of that lifestyle like?
Um, Sleeping on an air mattress every night is not comfortable. Uh, Sleeping on a bus floor is not comfortable. Not every hotel bed is comfortable. um, McDonald's is not good for you every day in season.
Yeah,
Um, and paying bills is tough. But no, the big thing is it teaches you that you have to really love the game. If you don't love the game, then that entire grind is going to suck. And it is a grind from top to bottom. Um, but now that I've gotten to the end and experienced the end, the grind is all worth it. And that's the biggest thing is that I would always encourage people is even though it sucks, if you have a love for the game, keep going because you never know you're one phone call away from being up there and your childhood dream coming true.
yeah. You spent, I think, 4 seasons in minor league systems. I'm sure trying to keep yourself mentally strong during those 4 seasons is tough,
Yeah.
right? That's not everybody, all the fans, they hope for your first round draft pick the next year you're starting,
Mm-hmm.
um, professionally. How, mental health wise, like what were some, like, was it just family and your girlfriend and stuff like that? I mean, were there days that you might thought of quitting, or I mean,
Yeah, for sure. There was in 2017, I faced the Port Charlotte Stone Crabs, who, if you look at them now, is I think four of those guys are in the big leagues. Um, and they beat the absolute brakes off of me. And it was for like the fourth game in a row I had got my teeth kicked in, and I just couldn't take it anymore. And I'll never forget, I walked in and threw my glove against the wall, and like I punched a hole in the wall, and it was like my heart rate started climbing, and I went to sit down in the bathroom stall and call my mom, and it was just like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I think I'm done. I don't think I can do this anymore. And then all of a sudden I started hyperventilating and couldn't breathe. And I had, come to find out later, an anxiety panic attack in that bathroom. And it just kind of humbled me a little bit. And again, that was the moment where I went back to Pete and said, I can either face this head on or I can run from my problems. And decided to stick it out for the rest of the year. My mom was going to come down. Kalia was going to come down and stay with me and kind of get me through it. But I told them to stay, and I had to get through it on my own, and it was only going to make me stronger. So after that year, I kind of learned how to separate life away from the game, and be able to walk out of the field and just be Justin, the son, brother, boyfriend, good friend, and try to talk to my friends about life away from baseball. Because that year I just was I would lay in bed and just stare and replay the games over and over and over and over in my head, and I just couldn't escape them. And I had never experienced failure like that to that point before, and I just compounded all over me, and I couldn't escape it. So after that, I just had to learn, like I said, to separate the game and understand that not everything is DEFCON 5. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days, especially in our game. Our game is a game of failure. You fail 7 times out of 10 as a hitter, you're a Hall of Famer. You're the best to ever play. And when you put that into perspective and understand that failure is okay, and to trust the process of where you're trying to go, I realized that I was okay, and got back to normal, and then got back to having fun. That was the biggest thing, was it became work, and I wasn't having fun on a baseball field. And the following years I started having fun again.
yeah. In December of 2018, you get traded to the Mariners.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about that process. I mean, even just like the logistical of, moving from New York to Seattle, and
Mm-hmm.
what that's like.
Yeah, so I was fortunate in getting traded in December, so I had time to kind of plan my life out. Um, when you get traded in season, the good part about that is you go into spring training with friends. For me, I went into spring training knowing nobody, but I was able to figure out, okay, this is where I'm going to live in Arizona. I didn't go straight to Seattle. I went to Arkansas first, so I was able to find out, okay, this is where I'm going to live in Arkansas. This is how I'm going to get my car here. I was able to keep my off-season routine the same. Everything was kind of normal till spring training, and then having my godmom and Kalia's family in Arizona gave me some familiar faces, and I was able to go see them when I didn't know anyone, and just kind of wanted to escape a little bit. But I remember when the trade went down, I didn't believe it, because I felt like I was a hometown kid. I was going to come up, I was finally starting to envision myself playing in New York. And I had it planned out was when I got called up and fly me into JFK, and I'm going to take the car to my house and just put the key in the door and open the door and say, Mom, I did it, and go sleep in my high school bed, and just be home and feel normal. It was kind of starting to get real, and then talking about getting apartments with my friends and where we were going to live, and all that stuff. And it just kind of reminded you that real world was still a thing, and life is still a thing. And but at the end of the day, like I said earlier, I thought I was going to be a Mariner, so I was super excited to get over there and have the new opportunity. Sad to leave my friends, obviously, with the Mets. I had a lot of really good friends, and Alonso and McNeil and Nito and Jimenez and Peterson, all guys that are up now. I was sad to leave them, but also excited to get over and be a part of a rebuilding organization and get a lot of opportunity, which I'm super thankful for. And we have a really great group of guys over in Seattle that I couldn't be happier to be playing with.
You played with Tim Tebow, right? In
I did
2018
I did play
at
with Timmy.
Binghamton.
I did, and in Port St. Lucie in 17. Yeah.
Okay. What was that? I mean, that's got to be a cool process to see a guy, with all this negative media attention, people making fun of him all across the spectrum, and he's just going after his dream, and he's just one of the guys, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think the biggest thing, and he got a lot of flack early, and honestly throughout the whole thing of guys. Obviously, people are gonna have their jealousy. A lot of guys work hard to get to that spot. And they didn't look at it as he worked hard in another area to get him to that area. Um, and they run a parallel line. He got to the highest level of this point in his career, just like Michael Jordan did, got to the highest level, and decided he wanted to take his athleticism and do something else, something that he's done before and that he loved. He loved the game. And when you get to be around him and talk to him, you knew that the love wasn't just for publicity. It was he really loved baseball and wanted to play baseball. And I gave him a lot of credit for trying to do something. It's like riding a bike, right? You've been riding a bike for X amount of years. Then you
Yep.
stop. Now I've been riding for the whole time that you stopped, right? I've learned so many more tricks and different things that I can do on a bike, and you just decide, oh, I just want to pick it up and try to do it again. It doesn't work. You're going to have some leeway to get back to where I am. And baseball is a game of repetition, and he may have been behind 50,000 reps of all the guys that were playing, and he held his own. So to
Yeah.
see the work that he put in and extra hitting and extra fielding and extra throwing to get to where he is and getting to AAA and putting himself in a good situation. It was really cool to see. And then away from the field, just to see how he handled all of, I mean, 'cause he's a celebrity.
Yeah.
Let's keep it at fact and see how he handled stuff away from the field. And taught me, the big thing he taught me was how to be a true professional and how to handle all that stuff, and just work ethic and determination. And he's a man of faith, and just to see how he lives his life is really awesome. And it was really cool to call him a friend for those 2 years, and still keep in contact with him a little bit here and there.
Yeah. In 2019, you were in Arkansas. Things started to make sense. I think 9-5, 25 starts. 3.55 ERA. What's the difference in where you were in 2019, and what got you to that good place?
Um, God is good. I don't know. I think the biggest thing for me was I went into that season. Um, I had already done Double A, so in my head it was kind of like I was just repeating the same level, and I had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder. And my goal was to get to the big leagues as fast as possible. I wanted to get to the big leagues. I wanted to show the Mariners that they traded for the right person and show the Mets that they let the wrong one go. Um, and I was determined and I was focused and had a really great staff with me and Mitch Canham, Caesar Nicholas, Pete Woodworth, our training staff, our strength staff, and they did a great job of working with me. Our catchers, Joe Odom. And I think the biggest thing was we had a very big college team. If you looked at our starting nine, 7 or 8 of us came from college, big D1 programs. And I was having fun going to the locker room every single day. We were doing the same things we did in 2016 of going to dinner together, to joking on the bus, to on the road. We were watching Game of Thrones in each other's room. We had Game of Thrones Sundays. We were having cookouts. Our girlfriends were going shopping together. We were just a family. And
Yeah.
I think we were able to play for each other. Um, and in the minor leagues, you catch yourself playing for yourself, and it's hard to do that. But when you're playing to win a ball game and playing to play for a ring, you get the best out of yourself. And I think that was ultimately the biggest factor in that year.
In September of 2019, you get called up to the major leagues. As you look at your process, there's a lot of minor league players. Any piece of advice on, as you reflect on that time to getting to where you got to? Just anything else that you want to would give them as a piece of advice?
Just enjoy the process. Enjoy the process, and never get too high, never get too low. Don't look at the person next to you. Just keep your head down and keep working. When you start to get caught up in why it's happening for other people and not for yourself, you get to a real low place. But if you can remember to just focus on yourself and enjoy playing the game and love the game, it'll all even out.
What was your major league debut like?
I can't even put it in words. I, I wasn't there mentally. I was in another place. I don't know where I was, but I can't put it into words. It was probably the coolest moment of my entire life.
Yeah. I guess just talk about I guess what's the pro life like, and what's the I guess the biggest difference in how you conduct yourself now, compared to the minor leagues. I mean, even if there is even any difference.
I think the biggest thing is just knowing that every decision I make now is for the job that I do. The places I go, the people I hang out with, the food I eat, the workouts I do are all designed to put me in the best situation possible to have success and stay where I'm at for the longest period of time. And I think that's the biggest flip that I've made in maturity wise, is understanding that this could all be taken away very quickly. And I have this opportunity in the game. If the window of life is this big, my opportunity in the game is maybe this big. And the door closes every year and gets smaller and smaller. So my job is to just try to keep that window open as long as I can, and just be focused and enamored in the process of being there and getting better, and never being satisfied with just being able to say I played in the major leagues, always wanting something more.
Yeah. Do you look at your future goals with like, I want to have this many starts, I want this ERA? Are you just really just true to the I mean, are you just I'm going to try to be the best that I can be today? Is it more, or do you have these goals in mind
I
specific?
have I have goals for myself. I don't tell a lot of people my goals. There's certain goals I'll let people in on, um, but I do have goals that continue to push me every single day, um, to never be satisfied, for sure. And I think every athlete has certain goals that they don't like to share, just because they don't want the negative energy brought to them. But there are definitely some things that I like to keep in my mind to remind me when I'm working out and this last set sucks, of how bad do you really want to be successful at the end of the day, to keep you going and keep you pushing through it.
How is it like being a Mariner? Do you get to interact with any of the legends like Ken Griffey Jr. or Ichiro or any of those guys?
Yeah, so I was fortunate. I came up with Felix. I got to play with Felix, which is a childhood hero of mine. So that was a really really cool movement, or a moment for me, watching his last game, and um, just being there for that. And I have met Griffey a couple times. He's a really great guy, awesome, big jokester, which is funny. And Ichiro was actually on the team and playing when I was my first year over there with them, so I got
Oh,
to
wow.
play with him in spring training. And he's been on staff for the past couple of years, so Ichi's a great guy also. And
Yeah.
then Alvin Davis, Jay Buhner. There's so many greats. The Mariners do a great job with having all their guys come around.
Yeah. Talk to us about this has been a season like no other. Usually the season starts in April, started in July, 60 games compared to, 180. Um, Minor league seasons were canceled. I mean, just how has this year been for you?
I think the biggest thing was just handling the quarantine for me. That was the toughest part, but baseball's baseball. I'm kind of still fresh out of the minor league, so there's not 10,000 fans at every game. So playing with no fans wasn't really that big of a deal for me. I was just excited to be on the field and to be able to play and live my childhood dreams out. Um, but it was definitely different with the COVID protocols, and it kind of took me back to 2017 of, you couldn't really leave the hotel to go get away. There was no getting away from the game. It was bus to the field, bus to the hotel every day, bus to the field, bus to home, or car to home. And It was baseball, baseball, baseball. So being able to be with the guys, and that's the great thing we have with the Mariners and our young team and how close we all are is we spend so much time together, and we kind of keep each other's minds away from the game, which was extremely helpful. And we played for something at the end of the year. That was super cool to have such a young team and be playing in some meaningful games in September at such a young age was, I think, going to make us so much better in the long run.
Yeah. Anything that in terms of, there was a lot of social I'll say awareness that came about this year. Baseball has always recognized Jackie Robinson, but for you as a professional, how has that been navigating Black Lives Matter and you know, just you know, the attention on, whether athletes should speak out or not speak
Yeah.
out? How has that been?
I think early it was tough for sure. We had 13 African Americans on one team, which was the most in the league. And when it all first started, we kind of looked to our older veterans of D. Gordon and Tyrone Walker and Malik Smith to kind of navigate us on how we should handle it. And then the team, we had a conference call during quarantine with the team, and I'm so thankful and grateful for the Mariners organization. And they let us know that they have our back no matter what we say, and they support us, and they were going to do what they could to speak up and fight injustices as well. So hearing that they had our back and that our teammates had our back and just our organization showing the love and compassion that they had for us was everything, and gave me comfort to speak up on the things that I wanted to speak up on or felt needed to be spoken upon, and not had to worry about the consequences of not only what people were going to say to me on social media, but having to worry about, is my employer going to be upset with me speaking my mind? I knew first and foremost that our ownership and our front office had our back, and it made everything amazing.
Obviously there's some people out there that believe, athletes should stick to sports. Can you talk about, why it's important to allow us as fans, or to just allow the, athletes to be human beings and speak their minds?
Yeah, I think COVID kind of shows everything. I think that shows because to me, sports are a privilege to our society. Sports are something that not everybody should get to do. It's okay for people to come watch us play, um, but we can't speak at the same time. That's something that kind of boggles my mind. The same people that love to come watch us play on the field are the same people that tell us we can't. Our opinions are irrelevant. And COVID, I think, showed people that no matter your job title, everybody's a human being, and it can all be taken away very quickly. So I just think once people understand that we're not trying to be entitled or trying to do anything crazy, we're just speaking our mind as U.S. citizens or human beings first and foremost. We're not trying to cause any uprising or anything like that. We're just venting just like you guys are. Um, it will make things a lot easier.
Yeah. Last couple questions, just a little lighter. Um, what do you love about baseball? What's the most fun thing about baseball? Is it striking someone that's a 350 hitter, or what do you love about it?
I think my favorite thing playing in the big leagues is going out the day after I pitch and doing my running early, and there's no one in the stadium. The lawnmower is going, and you can smell the grass. Last year was awesome because the vendors were in there, so you could smell the food being made, and you just take in the stadium with no one in there, and you just kind of can experience the moment. But my biggest thing is holding the ball in my hand and feeling in control, and just knowing the game doesn't go without me. If I want to stop, I can stop. If I want to play, we can play, and I decide the tempo in which we're going to play. And I think I can go on for hours. There's a chess match in between pitchers and hitters that I love. And then I just love the homework that goes into it, and the preparation of when you step on the field. It's okay, I did my work. let's see how good I did. And there's a best on best fight mentality that goes into it. Like I said, I can go on for hours, but I think the biggest thing is just walking into a stadium and being able to take it all in, and just understanding that my childhood dream is real, and I was able to kind of achieve it.
Yeah. Um, as I looked and, is there, obviously a lot of people grow up with major league dreams and, um, you're, whether you want to or not, are a role model to a lot of fans out there. They look up to you. Uh, Anything else that, you would like to talk about that we didn't hit on?
No, I think the biggest thing I always say, especially to kids, is like I told you earlier, I was never the kid that was supposed to be here. Never. I was always the kid that was doubted, that was told you're not good enough, you're too small, da da da. But the one thing I did have over a lot of people was the mental perseverance to understand that I was good enough in myself, and I had the self belief that I could do. And my mom did a great job of with her faith and teaching me this from a young age, that I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength, and it's something that's been with me since I was 7 years old. And I just kept working every day and believed that I could do all things. So I never let one person's tone take me away from my self belief. So to all the kids, if you want to do something, whether it's be a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, own 45 McDonald's, be a professional basketball player, be a heart surgeon, be a lawyer, if you want it, you can go get it, but you have to put the work in to do it, and want to be the best at whatever you're doing.
Yeah. Well, Justin, I just want to acknowledge you. I'm thankful that you joined me here today.
No problem.
Um, it was an honor to talk to you, and it's been awesome to see your journey as you talked about, um, and to see you, all the hard work pay off and living your dream right now. Um, yeah. So yeah, if there's anything else, feel
No,
free to thank. Otherwise, thank you so much for being on.
no problem. Thank you, bro. I appreciate you.
Thank you.